What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Odds and Ends. Today, as the title would suggest, we are talking about gaming memories. This comes to us via Smash JT, who was talking to Woodbarion Retro Game Hunter in one of Jav Geez live streams. I actually missed it, so I was just sort of notified that I was going to do this video via a text message or on Facebook or something, which is cool. I don't mind doing the content for you guys, man. Yeah, gaming memories, we all have them, and they're all different, and we all have a different story to tell, and I love it. So what I decided to do is break this video response up into 3 separate videos. So this video, we're going to talk about my earliest gaming memories and kind of what got me hooked into gaming. And then the second part of the video, which will come sometime in the future, I'll talk about my pre-military, so like high school and back down to, what made gaming great for me back in the day. And then the third video will probably be like when I got out of the military in 2001, to present, what gaming memories I have and stuff like that. What I'm into and that kind of stuff. All the channel links, all that stuff, as always, down in the description. So make sure you check them out. There's a bunch of people that are going to make videos. Jav Geez did his, Smash JT did his, DatGameCollector Alex, he already did his. But I think like Tight White and Chasing the Classics and some other YouTubers are going to do it as well. So make sure you stay tuned to their channels to watch their video responses. All right, now that we're 2 minutes into the video, we can talk about my gaming memories. For me, I was born in '78, so in 1985, when Nintendo started to roll around, that was sort of, a great time. You're 7, 8 years old, stuff like that. And it was awesome back then. I remember having at my grandparents', it was an Atari 7800, I want to say. It could have been a 2600 Junior. I remember that we had a shoebox of games, and we had like Choplifter, which I think only came out on the 7800, so I guess it would have been a 7800. We had like Pole Position, Jungle Hunt, Donkey Kong, the Pac-Mans, or whatever that abomination of a game was on the 2600, Crossbow, and, just a standard sort of Atari fare, adventure, that kind of stuff. And my aunt and uncle had one of these bad boys right here. Boom. The Sega Master System. This is the Model 1, but I think this is a later version. Serial number 38F21463. Because if you don't put a cartridge in here, it's got Safari Hunt and Hang On built into it. So I'm pretty sure it's a later model. I think the earlier model came with like a maze game. I don't remember what it was called. But yeah, the Sega Master System was amazing. It's got this little card slot here on the front. There's a set of 3D glasses that go in there. But you guys know, you guys know all this stuff. They made games that went in there that look like credit cards. Almost like TurboGrafx, Hue cards. And then you could also play your cartridge games up top. Interesting thing about the controller is that there's no like pause button on the controller. It's all done on the console here. We've got a reset button, and a pause button. So yeah, Sega Master System, a lot of great memories there with Aztec Adventure, which is actually a pretty difficult game that people don't talk about. It's sort of Zelda-esque. Parlor games, Safari Hunt, Hang On, that type of stuff. The sports games were, again, you have to kind of put things in the context of time. The sports games are really good for that age, right? Great baseball and great volleyball. I don't know what was going on with great football because you don't really get to play a game of football. It's almost like a 2 or 4 minute time attack, and you get the ball and you got to try and score as many points as you can in those 4 minutes. It's sort of weird. Choplifter, one of my favorite ports of Choplifter is on the Sega Master System, and it's still one of my favorite games to this day. It's fair, but it's also difficult. We get to play this at my grandparents' house on weekends, or when we stayed at my aunt and uncle's, and we'd play the hell out of it, man. And it was funny, because parlor games had pool and darts, which is, my family, we're way into the pool and darts, but it also had like world-class bingo on it, so you're like teaching kids kind of how to gamble a little bit, you know what I mean? Play bingo. But yeah, the Sega Master System, awesome console. And I picked this up a couple years ago. I finally got a good deal on it. I think I got it for like $70 or $75. Maybe it came with 2 controllers and a couple games and the phaser. Unfortunately, you can't use those phasers now on the on the new TVs. But you know, if you ever get a decent game room and you can set up a CRT TV, you'll notice that Master System sits right there all the time in my videos. So we talked about, you know, the Atari, you know, a little bit. We talked about the Sega Master System. But when we got this thing right here, the Nintendo Entertainment System, this ruled our world. Back in the day, you know, again, you got to put things in the context of time. And some of you young Thundercats, you know, out there may not understand that as I'm looking at it, you know, doesn't have an HDMI. It's not Wi-Fi compatible. You don't download games onto it. You know, you don't touch little figures to it, you know, to get special items in games. And that's not to say that, you know, the newer consoles are bad or anything, but it was a different time playing the NES. Everybody knows the story, right? The video game crash of 82, 83. And Nintendo had this great idea. The Nintendo Entertainment System came out in Japan. It was a Famicom. They brought it over to the United States, and they didn't want it to look like a video game. So they wanted to make it look like, you know, a VCR or so, you know, Betamax tape player. You know, something that was familiar to the parents that they could get behind as maybe an educational tool and not necessarily a toy or a video game console. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of accessories for this bad boy, different controllers and power pads and light zappers, things like that. But back in the day, again, and you have to sort of, I'm going to say that like 10 more times, the context of time. For those of us that grew up with Nintendo, and I mean those of us that had it when we were under 10 years old, our parents were from a different generation. You know, they were probably born in the 50s or the 60s, and their parents were born, you know, 20 years prior to that. And that's sort of, you know, where the TV was considered the boob tube or the idiot box. And don't sit in front of the TV all day because it'll rot your brain. So I specifically remember my parents, you know, only allowing us to play the Nintendo for an hour or two a day on the weekdays, and, you know, an hour or two, maybe 3 hours on the weekends. Maybe we could get up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and the parents could sleep in until 9 or 10 and we could get 3 hours in. But when my parents said it's time to go outside, we immediately had to turn this off and go outside and play. And we were outside playing all day. Now, if it was, you know, inclement weather or something like that, we were allowed to play. When family members came over and brought their kids with them, we were allowed to go downstairs kids go downstairs in the basement, shut up, be seen, not heard kind of thing, go play Nintendo. And we would play Nintendo. And, yeah, I mean, if Nintendo was like the greatest technology for video games back in the day, then this thing right here, this little guy, Mario Bros. Duck Hunt, would be considered the killer app. This was the game that everybody had, everybody wanted to play, and it was just sort of a new experience from those old Atari games, you know, especially if you didn't have a Sega Master System. Atari games, a lot of them, you got to use your imagination. They're more high score games than they are adventure games, and the adventure games aren't really that great. You know, it's like you're like a little cube and you're floating around the screen. But when we played Mario Brothers and that startup music, you know, came on, and you're like, well, we'll scroll from this side of the screen to that side of the screen, then the screen moves and it keeps moving. It's like, where is this going? And then you finally get to Castle 1-4, and you know, you get past Bowser. Sorry, Mario, our princess is in another castle, and the game keeps going. We were blown away, and you don't really understand that, like, if you didn't live through it. You know, it was sort of the unpredictability. Like, you didn't really know what you were getting when you got a video game because, first of all, there wasn't any internet, and at that time there really wasn't, you know, magazines or anything like that. I know Nintendo Power came out in '89 or whatever, and then you had, you know, GamePro and Sony and Electronic Gaming Monthly and PlayStation Underground. But we're talking like way before this because I'm old. And yeah, so that was sort of one. The second thing is like when you went to a store, a lot of times like Toys R Us, you know, they had the flat panel on the wall that just had a picture of the game, and you could like flip it up and you could look at the back of the game and read it. And it was basically a copy of the box art. And then you pulled a little slip out, and you had to go take it up to the register, pay for it. Then you take the slip and the receipt over to this cage. It was like a game cage, you know, and you give the guy, you know, your receipt and the slip, and he goes and gets your game. And the thing is, you only got a couple games a year when it was maybe your birthday or Christmas. Christmas was a big one. So you kind of had to select wisely. And this was still even before video game rental stores were popular, you know, like the Blockbusters and stuff like that. I remember being able to go into a Kroger or a Meijer, which Kroger is like a grocery store here. A Meijer is sort of like, you know, a Target that's also a grocery store or something like that, like a Kohl's that's also a grocery store. They sell clothes and food. And being able to rent games, they had a little cubby where you could go in and rent video games and movies and stuff, which was awesome. I remember getting a Nintendo game, and it was from a hardware store. And this hardware store, I don't know, it was like in Iowa or something, and they rented out games back in the 80s and early 90s, which is amazing. I left that sticker on there, by the way. And you know, again, the context of time, and it was a totally different landscape when it came to video games. And I could just remember playing those games, and especially some of the most beloved NES games of all time. And they're beloved for a reason. You know, the Mario 2, Mario 3, Zelda 2, the Mega Man series, Contra. You know, Contra was a great two-player game, especially if you were a kid. You enter the 30 lives code, you and your buddy, that's 60 lives, plus you're earning lives as you go. It made the game great. Even Ninja Turtles and Turtles 2, amazing games for back in the time, right? Nowadays, some of those games, they don't hold up as well as others do, I guess. But that's really what got me into gaming. And when we would play these games, you know, we would be hooked. And especially like sports games, like RBI baseball, stuff like that, ice hockey, we would play those, and they would cause fights and arguments in the basement with the neighbor kids and stuff. And it was just an amazing time. And I'm very, very privileged, and I'm proud to have been a part of it and seen it firsthand. You know, Christmas when Zelda and Mario 2 came out, you know, Mario 2 and Zelda 2 came out, you know, you couldn't find a copy. They sold out so quick. So parents are left with buying their kids Nintendo games that they may not necessarily want, that are shit bombs, you know, like Silent Service, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Some crappy game that, you know, didn't get much playtime, but the parents wanted to make the kids happy. Nowadays, if my son wants a game, I go to GameStop if they don't have it. I go to Target if they don't have it. And then I just buy them a gift card. Boom. There you go. There's your gift card. Buy it off of Amazon. We didn't have that back in the Stone Age, you know, the Stone Age of gaming, really. But guys, those are some of my memories. I want to thank Smash JT for putting this challenge out there. It's sort of an open challenge. So if anybody wants to make these videos, and I encourage you to make one, make your video, leave a link, or let us know in the comment of this video that you made one, and we'll definitely come over and check out your channel, because I love hearing everybody's story. So the next video will be when we get past Nintendo all the way up to my military time, which is exciting because that takes us all the way up to like PlayStation 2, which is amazing. So guys, tell me your tale, leave a comment in the comment section down below, or make a video, and definitely check out the links in the description so you can go check out those guys' gaming memories. So we'll see you on the next one.